Welcome into Power Plays presented by Bet365. We're the crew from Line Change Action Network's hockey betting podcast. I'm Tim Kalinowski, joined by Michael Leboff and Nick Martin. We're going to give you three best bets for Saturday's slate. The first, post-trade deadline. I guess you can count Friday, but this is when it really settles in. This is crunch time. This is the stretch run. So Saturday, it's a great slate of games. Hopefully we can deliver you some winners. It's draft style. And Michael Leboff, it's back to you for the number one overall pick. Where are you going?
I'm going with the Montreal Canadiens, officially Le Club de Hockey Canadien and colloquially known as the Habs. They are plus 172 at home right now against the Toronto Maple Leafs. I like the spot for Montreal. We've talked about them quite a bit on Line Change as a team that's incrementally improved, especially at 5-on-5. I think the defensive numbers are getting better, and I do think that there's something to be said about this team at post deadline, knowing that it's just over and they can breathe a sigh of relief. They traded Jake Allen. There was all the rumors around David Savard. So just knowing that, this is the team for the rest of the year, I think that does help sellers in the immediate aftermath of the trade deadline down, as we get further away from it. I don't think it matters as much. But we've talked about their improvements, and they haven't won at the rate that you think. With those improvements, they did beat Nashville. Then they put up, I thought, a pretty good effort against Carolina on Thursday night in a 4-1 loss, which they were skating with Carolina for a good bit of the game before it got away from them. So I think that this Montreal team is just still going to be flying under the radar a little bit with their marginal gains at 5-on-5. We know that the goaltending will be pretty good if it's Sam Montembeault. And I think that, they're also a team that loves to punch up in this exact spot when they're taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So they always seem to get to overtime. So if you want to be a little frisky, maybe a Montreal Canadiens win in overtime, if you can find a way to correlate that. But I like the Canadiens as my favorite bet on Saturday night.
Yeah, fun fact, the H in the jersey crest there for the Canadians does not stand for Habs. It stands for hockey. Canadians hockey. You were not allowed to have the nickname back in the day in the sweater, or either that's their rule or an old hockey rule. But anyways, Leboff, I like the pick also too. You failed to mention that the heat is really turning up on Toronto. It always is, but it will continue after that Boston showing on Thursday night up until puck drop of that Montreal game. So pressure certainly on the Leafs. Nick, I imagine you endorse the Canadiens pick. I feel like we were talking a little bit about it in the last couple hours here.
Yeah, I like the Habs here, and it's funny Mike throws out the sprinkle in overtime because I was going to specifically say that I'm gonna pass pregame on the Habs and kind of see how the game gets going. I do like them to make it more competitive than kind of the number suggests, but I kind of specifically prefer trying the super long shot on overtime here. I feel like there has been a lot of these. I'll be kicking myself if the Habs just come out and win straight up, obviously, but I kind of like the chances that it's just a closely contested game and that the Habs playing good is more likely to mean them getting it to overtime. So I'm with both. Obviously, I think if you like this big of an underdog and you're saying that they can get a game to overtime, that's an endorsement on the bet. So I do like that. And yeah, it's great. The two goalie thing I think is going to solidify both their goalies now too. I don't think it's going to really matter ahead of this game, but I do think that is like a short-term benefit. And for the Habs, like Mike said, this is their Super Bowl. Every year we saw a similar thing down the stretch last year. They won a game in Toronto. The prices were outrageous. So I think you're getting the number to try with this. I definitely think you're going to kind of get a more competitive game than the difference in the standings suggests here.
It'll be a one anthem night in Montreal. We're looking at the Habs and we're looking at overtime. Nick, what is your best bet for the Saturday slate?
Yeah, I'm going to go right back to the Flyers here. And Mike had a good call on them on Florida. We always talk about how they're so good at punching up with their ability. It's just like a pack of dogs. And, they play really structured. They're feisty. They're on you. They've got two pretty talented offensive lines. I think that's kind of the thing that continues to get lost in the shuffle when people talk about this team is that with Konechny back in the mix, the way Morgan Frost is playing, the way Tippett's going, they actually have like a pretty decent top six. So yeah, they lost some defensive talents, but I still think that this price is just too long. And then you look at the Tampa end of things, this team can fold under pressure to anyone. They were horrible versus the Flames last night. It feels like we've heard this story like 5 times this season where it's like, oh, Tampa won't lose again. This is the get right spot. This is all that. It might be, but I think they have some legitimate flaws that mean this price on this game is a little too long. If you had been betting Tampa game by game all year, you're down a lot because they continue to get overvalued based off their reputation. So I think this number is just a little too long. Obviously, I agree that the Lightning are more likely to win this game and worthy of being somewhat of a favorite, but not to this extent. I think the Flyers are definitely in with a puncher's chance.
Yeah, I mean Philadelphia too. You could say, hey, they've sold off here at the deadline, but it's been made pretty clear from the jump that they were going to be a team that was interested in selling, even if they were in it like they are right now. So it shouldn't be too much of a shock to the system for the players there. Leboff, it's an underdog. So do I even need to ask you? You endorse this?
Yes, the underdog against the Flyers. This has been a staple play for us basically all season is when Philadelphia is catching these kind of numbers. And the both these teams I think are in a weird spot where Tampa just thought they addressed part of their defensive depth issues by trading for Matt Dumba. I don't think he's going to move the needle. I assume he'll play in this game, and I don't think he's someone that's going to help them defend better by any stretch. And the Flyers bring in Eric Johnson. I actually think that as poor as he's been this season, he gives them an NHL body on the back line, which is something they needed when with Walker traded, Sealer hurt, Ristolainen hurt, Drysdale hurt. So I like this Flyers team in these kind of spots still. So I'm with Nick here. No disagreement yet on this show.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
Flyer. Oh, you
I
got
was
it.
gonna say I'll throw in one last aside there too. Maybe Dumba picks it up. That's completely possible, but he has been horrific this season. That top pairing in Arizona has been one of the most consistently bad units that's never gotten split up, really. So, um, we'll see. It remains to be seen. You always hear the phrase, this guy could pick it up, leaving this team or that team, but I think people definitely overvalue that narrative at times. When you're just talking about pulling a guy out of a lottery team and assuming he's going to for sure find his form.
I will round us out here with the Dallas Stars on the money line at the LA Kings. Dallas will be a back-to-back for them coming off playing Anaheim. But look, I just think it's funny. You talk about the trade deadline, all these teams that improved, all of a sudden this team's the favorite, that team's the favorite. I still think, the Dallas Stars, what they did getting Tanev, and Nick, you've been on this from the jump. Stankoven being called up to the National League club has been about as good of an addition as any team could ask for in this race. I think that it's just a little short this game. That where this line sits at right now, I don't put much stock in the back to back. I mean, it's freaking Anaheim. Come on here. So I like Dallas as a team that can just beat you in a number of different ways. They're young, they're fast, but they can also be a little bit nasty with their vets still around. This is a team I think if the Tanev trade had come on Friday deadline day, people would be ready to call Dallas the favorites out of the West, but it just happened a little too early, and we like to have short-term memory loss when that's the case here. Leboff, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think you actually summed that one up pretty nicely. And I think it's a lot of times we talk about the back-to-back being baked too much into a number. Seems like that's the case here. And I'm just gonna say this real quick that I'm gonna keep an eye out for Stankoven when the playoffs start on that Conn Smythe odds for because if we could get like an actual legitimate long shot bet on him, if the betting books actually post his number and I don't have to go asking for it and then they know that we're coming, I'm actually gonna bet that one because I just think there's a chance here that he continues to score at a this kind of clip in the playoffs, and so it has nothing to do with Saturday slate, but I'll put it out there for the watchers that uh, I'm gonna be on that. I think.
Yeah, Nick, I imagine Stankoven's your guy here. I imagine you're thinking stars, stars, stars.
Yeah, I like the Stars here. I do, I think that the Kings have stabilized quite a bit, but I'm still surprised to see this priced evenly, given the spot. So if we have confirmation that it'll be Wedgwood Friday night and then Ettinger in this game, I think you can play the Stars at this number and take your chances. They still have a lot more guys pulling on the rope offensively than the Kings. I think that's an edge that can show out here. Um, and yeah, we talked about it, but they look really good right now. And a lot of these rentals that people I think they're getting aren't quite what Logan Stankoven is. Crazy thing is they got another guy down there in Maverick Bork. So I still think the Stars are a team to watch in the Cup outright market. And yeah, like them tomorrow night.
Well, there you have it. Before we let you go here, I want to let you know that Power Plays is presented by Bet365, and Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win. More Bet365 boost specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boosts and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only, or 18 plus in Kentucky, and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 100% bets off in Iowa. Terms and restrictions and T's and C's and restrictions apply. All of those things. Keep in mind, Bet365 does a great job. Happy to have them as a sponsor on board here. Gentlemen, have a tremendous weekend. Hopefully we can sweep the board here, and good luck to everybody watching with their NHL picks. It's a wonderful time to be a hockey fan.